Okay.
Alrighty, welcome in everybody to the pod. We're just gonna give it a second to breathe here. We want to make sure we have all of our groups in here. Let's get these wheels spinning. Come on. And it looks like we are a go. Welcome in, Broncos country. This is Orange and Blue View OBV, your obvious choice for Saturday night viewing. My name, Dylan Von Arx, here every Saturday. Love talking to you folks. And tonight, Ron is out and about with some family, but we do have an amazing fill-in here with Kenneth Booker. Kenneth, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Just enjoying this nice, beautiful day. Catching a little CU football out of my peripherals, and just enjoying being here with you, Dylan, and everybody in the group and Broncos country. Excited for tomorrow's game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely watching college football today. Lots of fun, and it'll be great to finally see the Broncos hit the field. And before we get started here, let's get a few people in the chat in here. We have David Youngkin coming in saying, Broncos country, finally game day tomorrow. Yes, David. Super exciting. Get to see Bo Nix and go against Seattle. Very loud, very chaotic, but hoping for a win there. Let's see, who else do we have here? Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
We have.
Oh, okay. What's going on, Mike S?
Good to see you, Mike S. He says, "What's up, Dylan, Kenneth, and Broncos country? Good to see you as always, my friend." We also have William Catalano saying, "So ready, win or lose." Well, we're gonna hope for a win.
Yeah,
but we're always going to, no matter, we do our weekly predictions and whatnot, and whether I pick them, the Broncos to win or not, I will be rooting for them.
Yeah. You always want to see the upset if you don't feel like they're going to win.
Definitely. Alrighty. And so we're going to do a full breakdown tonight of the game, keys, players to watch, some stats here and there. But before we do that, we had some interesting comments from a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Emperor Palpatine himself, Bill Belichick. He had an interview with Michael Lombardi, and he had a few interesting quotes here about the Broncos' new starting quarterback, Bo Nix. And here we go. So, Bo Nix looks a lot like at Denver, like he looked in Oregon. High completion percentage, can move the ball, can move the team, athletic enough and good decision maker. He doesn't hurt the team. I'm not saying that every play is the greatest play you'll ever see, but there are some solid plays, and he doesn't hurt the team, doesn't turn the ball over, and makes good decisions. Sounds a lot like quarterback he had there in New England. Probably
yeah,
a lot of fondness there for that sort of style of play and whatnot.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. He's or maybe it's a little PTSD for all the quarterbacks since that certain quarterback. He's like, he can only do so much. He's like, I can give you the play. I just need you to execute. And he sees it in Bo, and he almost wishes he was here, it seems like.
Yeah, right. I know he'll be a analyst. I believe he's with Pat McAfee, and then I know he's on a couple other shows. I know he or at least that's where he was last. He's all over the place these days doing underdog fantasy and all that sort of stuff. But hey, some good praise from Coach.
What was the one? Did you see the one where he's it was like a young player, and he's like happy with everybody in the locker room, and then he sees Belichick, and his face just goes straight, and he like shakes his hand.
Oh.
Apparently he was dating that guy's sister or something.
Could have been something like that. I want to say, was it a quarterback?
I don't know. I want to say it was,
but Bailey Zappi, maybe. I think that might be who it was, but yeah, Belichick. He's a hard style coach, and better zip your lip around him. You want to be very tight-lipped and buttoned up.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And so Belichick did continue. Yeah, it didn't seem like the game was too fast for him. He actually looked pretty comfortable in there. I know it's preseason. He's not getting a ton of scheme, but he did what he could do. It's pretty impressive. Accuracy, especially on passes like screen passes, bubbles, slants, things like that. Those balls are on the money, they're accurate, and then there's a lot of yards after the catch. So, yeah, playing to his strengths, obviously, this is what we heard coming out of college with in Oregon. A lot of screen passes, a lot of dump offs and whatnot. And obviously, that's going to be something that Sean Payton plays to because that's what Bo's good at. But that doesn't mean he can't throw the deep ball when needed. Obviously, I've been not necessarily outspoken. Some of the other hosts have this opinion as well. But you want to see a little more velocity with his throws and playing against backups in preseason. Obviously, there were some starters sprinkled in here and there, but he checked every box in terms of preseason. But now we're getting to the real stuff here, and those windows close quicker. You got starters playing. Seattle's got a pretty badass defense on the D line and in the secondary, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays there.
Yeah, I also liked how Belichick said, yeah, they might be short throws, but he's hitting them like in a perfect spot to where they continue running. And yeah, they're 2-yard throws, but they turn into bigger plays because of that. And that was, I mean, I'm not comparing Knicks to Brady, but that was what he was perfect at. He would catch Wes Welker on a 3 or 4 yard pass, and you turn it into a 14-yard catch. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just maybe when he watches him, he's like, he should go to him. And before he says that, Bo goes to him, and he's like, oh wow, they're on the same page.
Yeah, and just going back to talking how Bo seems to be more Belichick style quarterback, he did hear him dog the first overall pick in Caleb Williams there a little bit. You know, he saying, oh yeah, he makes these amazing throws, but he's a little more inaccurate and all this stuff. And it's, you know, Belichick's more about the high completions and all this, not so much about the sizzle. He's then that's a lot of what we saw with Brady, like in their dynasty. They got it done. Not necessarily the most fun football to watch, you know, very by the numbers and taking checkdowns. You know, you get a deep shot here and there when you can, but and especially in the Super Bowls, you notice Brady didn't have to do a whole lot. And that's not saying obviously nothing to take away from him, but he was like, I'm just not going to make a mistake, and I'm going to let the other team screw up before I do, and that's a winning formula for them, obviously, and maybe he sees some of that in Bo Nix.
Yeah, definitely positive yards. That's what you want to see. Just the ball continue to move forward. Usually, when you're looking for that big play, you run into last year's Russell Wilson or the year before. It'll work a couple times, but you keep going to that well, you're gonna get burnt. So I don't know if that analogy makes any sense, but like you keep doing that, and you're gonna get it's gonna catch up with you. So the easy passes are just they're positive. You hit them in the right spot, they turn into mega positives, and then if they start to cheat on that, then boom, you go down the field. So we'll see. I just talked about it. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out, and see if Knicks can find those open spots, hit those people in the right spot, and continue to keep those chains moving.
Definitely, man. Love to hear some good praise from a future Hall of Fame coach on the rookie quarterback. And before we get into our keys to the game and whatnot, just saying hello to a few more people in here. Mark Hoynak, so close to ready. Go Broncos, yes. Only a matter of hours even now. It's not even a full day. So we'll be seeing some Broncos football very soon. We got our friend Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Good to see you, Daniel. Always good to have you in the chat. And we have some stars, as always, from our good friend Phil McLaughlin. Thank you, Phil, so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it greatly. Good evening, Dylan and Ken. Where do you guys think we have the biggest advantage, if any, over Seattle? That's a very good question. There's a lot of things that we're going to discuss. Maybe this will segue us into the first few keys to the game here, and I'll start with one. The Denver Broncos must control the trenches, and I think especially on our offensive line, the interior, because this is a team the Broncos can run on. They do have some good players up the middle. Pass rushing acumen, very good on that Seattle front, but run defense, kind of so-so. Obviously, you got Ben Powers, not the best at pass blocking, but he is a great run blocker, as is Quinn Miners. Luke Wattenberg, we will see. But they do need to take advantage of that matchup. That will be a big key to the game to get the run game going.
Yeah, I would love that. It just gives the other team just more things to think about. And the run game, not only just Javonte and Jaleel and the rest of the crew, but Bo as well. They don't got to be big plays, but if you can get 5 yards on a Bo run, I mean, you jump your success on converting that third down by a big number. One of them for me was I want to see how Riley Moss holds up. I want to see if how much they attack him. Because if you're a smart offensive coordinator, you should attack everybody but PS2.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Riley can break it up, if he bites on double moves, if is aware when picks are coming, stuff like that. And if he does get his hands on the ball, if he's able to actually pull it in, because there's too many times where you see these guys make these great situational plays and then they drop the ball, and then you get the field goal, or later on they get a touchdown, and it just completely changes the outcome of the game. So I want to see how he holds up.
Definitely, yeah. There's going to be a lot thrown his way. Obviously, he hasn't been a starter capacity outside of preseason. We're going to see him against either Tyler Lockett probably, or maybe JSN, depending on where they want to line him up. Maybe they switch it over and DK's over there, and that's going to be a big challenge. You would hope PS2's shadowing him for a good part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just back to the controlling trenches point. The Broncos are going to need to take the crowd out of this game. This is a very loud stadium. I was there at Russ's debut 2 years ago, and my ears were ringing, absolutely ringing after the game. And I can't imagine how it is for the players on the field. I mean, you're trying to communicate. That headset cuts off, and you're dead in the water. If you didn't get the play call, you're going to have to check to something. Obviously, we talk about Bo Nix being a smart, heady quarterback and anticipating, but that crowd noise can be so debilitating and really take you out of your rhythm. Did your receiver hear you? Did your offensive lineman make the right checks? Did you hear the full play call? Stuff like that. And the best way to mitigate some of that crowd noise is, like we mentioned before, run that ball, pound the rock, take the crowd out of it, make them bored, mm-hmm. make them tired. Because this is one of the tougher stadiums to play at for sure.
Yeah, it's funny too. It's our old division rival from way back in the day. I remember they used to be. I think it was like during the Terrell days. It was like one of the last years. But yeah, it's a tough crowd. It's super loud. I think they engineer it to be louder or something, the way they designed the stadium. I think they did, but I'm not 100% sure. That might just be like a rumor, but
that could be. I know the Chiefs Stadium is that way.
Oh, maybe it's the Chiefs. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, but Seattle's got to do their part too to keep it loud. They're just not an explosive team. They're a smart team. They take their chances when they're presented with them, but they're not gonna blow you out of the water. So it's taking away their run is the big one. I think it gives them more time to get in rhythm. The more first downs they get, and then that's when you start getting into some deep waters where you don't know what's going to happen. So I think we need to really bottle up Kenneth Walker or let him feel us every time we do hit him.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, that's the next big key. That's a big one. How is this defensive line going to look against the Seahawks run game? Seattle's offensive line, kind of so-so. They got some good tackles. Their interior, a little shaky. Obviously, Kenneth Walker is a hard-hitting running back. We were talking before we went live, but he does tend to get hurt. So obviously not wishing that on him, but he does have that injury concern. Does defensive line look great in preseason? Obviously, again, you got to preface it, it's preseason, but encouraging things, especially from the interior with John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen. DJ Jones has been all right, not to the level I'd want to see him at, but still solid. But they're gonna have to rise to the occasion because Seahawks are gonna want to run the ball. I know they have these weapons on the outside, but I think the game plan will be to hammer this defensive line because, as we've seen over the past few years, the Broncos have been run over time again. Team gets up a touchdown or two, and they're like, "We don't need to throw anymore. This team's already beat. Their will's broken." So we got to establish some hurt pretty early on.
Yeah, it's like they need a gang tackle Kenneth Walker. Don't assume that he's tackled as somebody's got him wrapped up. Finish him off. This is one of the most demoralizing plays is when you think you got him and then they break it to get the first down or to get a touchdown. Just because people aren't playing 100%. So we'll see about that one. What was there's another one I had was I guess it's the same thing as if Javonte and Jaleel can keep the pressure off of Knicks. I would like to see a healthy mix of those guys, especially Jaleel. Maybe little swing passes, some tosses, up the middle every once in a while, but nothing too crazy. But I want to see those guys get involved. And then even if you fall behind by 7 to 10 points, don't forget about those guys. Don't just start airing it out.
Yeah, we saw that throughout last season. Even if the ground game was working, Broncos would get down a score or two, and then Sean Payton said, "Screw it, we're abandoning the run game. We need to catch up immediately." And it's like, man, we're still in this game. You're only behind the score. You can still run the ball. And obviously, Javonte wasn't looking too good last season. And, I mean, it makes sense. He's coming off a 3 ligament tear in his knee. I didn't even expect him to play that season. And then you have Jaleel, still pretty green. And then Samaje was more of a receiver than a running back. So getting that run game established, like we mentioned before, take out the crowd noise, but also you just want to be dominant and wear out that defense to open up the passing game.
Let me see what you got here.
All right. Yeah. Let's get back into the chat for just a second because I was
looking for some other little
Patrick Wiltsey in here. He says, "Aloha, gents. One more day till it's time to bow leave." Yes, that's right. I'm a big wrestling fan, and there's this guy for a while named Bo Dallas, and he was a big Bo Leave guy.
Sorry about that.
Was his slogan. Yeah, no, you're good. And he was his catchphrase or whatever was Bo Leave, so it's kind of like deja vu for me, hearing that come back up again in my other sport that I watch.
Was it they said all the same stuff about Justin Herbert too coming out. Oregon, the short passes.
That was.
He has a much stronger arm, but
definitely. I don't think they utilized Herbert to the best of his abilities in college, and then we've kind of seen him falter around some, I would say, pretty subpar coaching since he's been in the NFL.
Definitely. They remember that one. I forgot what year it was. They had the number 1 defense and the number 1 offense, and they missed the playoffs because their special teams was so bad.
Yep, that's that field position, and you give up a lot on special teams. I don't think people give that unit enough credit, although we've seen it be a little lackluster the past, half decade or so. It's not as explosive, but still important nonetheless.
Looks like we got a Nebraska fan in here.
Oh man, okay. Well, he says go Big Red.
It's always good to have a good rivalry, as long as it doesn't get too ugly. But they've always been a good team. We were a good team for a long time, but we're trying to fight our way back. We'll see how it plays out. But they're doing really well right now, Nebraska. So game's not over yet.
Yeah, baby Mahomes doesn't look too bad out there, I suppose. So we got a few keys out there. Let's move on to some players to watch. Obvious one, Bo Nix. How's he going to respond to the crowd noise? How's he going to look against blitzes and simulated pressures? Because we don't get to see that very much, if at all, in preseason. And just, situationally, how's he going to look on third down? red zone. If we're down a score in the fourth quarter, how's that 2-minute drill going to look? And that's the obvious one there. What's Bo Nix going to look like? Rookie quarterback, first start in a very hostile territory. What are your thoughts there, Ken?
Yeah, I think he'll be able to handle the noise crowd. I just want to see if he's going to be able to handle the moment. Because sometimes, you'll be like, all right, I'm good, and then you realize where you're at, and then you're just like, you kind of space. But that's what's good about Bo. He's a big repetition, big X's and O's guys. So that's what always helps you whenever you kind of freeze up on situations. It's just the training. You just fall back on your training, and you'll be all right. And we'll see if he can do that. But I think he can. I think he's disciplined enough, and if he gets surprised by something, he'll be like, "Oh wow, like I didn't even think about that." But then he'll learn about it next time. Like, all right, I'm gonna look for this guy next time. So, yeah, I think he'll be good. Fingers crossed, but I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely. What is your turn, Kenneth? Why don't you name a player to watch here for the Broncos?
Luke Wattenberg. He's the newest guy on there. I mean, he's been with the team before for a while already, but it's first time starting. He's going to go against a super talented nose guard in Byron Murphy. You got the other guys along their front as well that he's going to have to deal with, and we'll see how he deals with the strength of those players. If he's able to anchor himself and stop him from pushing back and get Bo that little pocket that he needs, or if he's going to get bullied over and Bo's going to get trampled in the process. So I want to see how Wattenberg holds up. Hopefully he does well.
Yeah, he is that new guy on the offensive line. Obviously, Cushenberry left in free agency, and he was solid last year, and I think we'll see similar results from Wattenberg. And like you mentioned, the rookie first-round pick Byron Murphy, that guy's a beast. You got Leonard Williams there coming over from the Giants last year, and he's also just a disruptor up the middle. Jaron Reed, also another good guy in the middle there, but a familiar name, Draymond Jones.
Yeah.
Now, it kind of seems that the Broncos won that exchange, getting Zach Allen over him, and I was a big Draymond Jones guy. I thought he looked pretty great here, but his tenure in Seattle has been pretty lackluster, and while Zach Allen looked pretty good last year, despite having no help, I think he looked fantastic, and with Franklin Myers, he's going to look so much better, not having all the pressure on him. But back to Wattenberg, we'll have to see how he holds up against that, because, like we were mentioning earlier, the run game is going to be a focal point of this Broncos attack, and if he can't hold up, things could get dicey real quick.
Definitely, collapsing in the middles. That's the worst. You can always step up on those guys, those tackles, whatever, those edge rushers. But I don't know. The middle, you step to the side, you might run right into the edge rusher. It's just a no-win situation, unless you're Patrick Mahomes or those other guys that find a way. Which is funny. I saw a crazy play with it was the preseason, second to last preseason game with Zach Wilson, where he ran that 20-yard run.
Mm-hmm.
Old Zach Wilson would have been sacked 100% of the time. But he just did this little shuffle, and it opened up this running lane for him, and then he just took off. And I was like, before that, he would have just, I don't know. A lot of those quarterbacks will spin in circles. Mm-hmm. It's really weird. They do a 360, and then they just
Russell Wilson.
I don't know. They always revert to that. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a survival thing, but yeah, he just the little hop he did, and it was pretty nice. So I don't know why I forgot why I went deep in that, but he's I'm just happy he's doing so much better.
Definitely. So yeah, we'll get to another player here, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier. Riley Moss. He is going to get every target. Well, not every target, but the majority of targets, and that's just by virtue of having the best cornerback in the league playing opposite to you.
Mm-hmm.
He's I don't want to say he's raw, but he's a very rangy corner. He's long, he's fast. You did see him get beat on one deep ball this preseason, and luckily the receiver dropped it.
Oh yeah, I did see
Hopefully
that.
we can clean that up, and I'm just thankful that we have a guy like Jim Leonard as the DB's coach. I think he's going to build up that room nicely, with Chris Abrams' drain, and maybe he could revive Damari Mathis once he comes back from injury. But back to Riley Moss, he's going to get a lot of targets coming his way, whether probably going to be matched up on Tyler Lockett quite a bit, or possibly Jake Bobo, depending on where they are on the field. It could get ugly, but I believe in an interview just a few days ago, Riley Moss was talking about his rookie season at Iowa. They were throwing the ball his way a lot, and guess what? He came away with 2 picks because they were just forcing it that way. And he's got some good ball skills.
It's almost like the white cornerback thing works as like a lull them to sleep. Like they're like, oh, I got this guy. It's like, go ahead and try if you want to. Like, I was going to take it to the house. Like,
exactly.
But he's we'll see if he has a short memory, whatever, if he gets beat one time or once or twice, whatever, if it messes with him or not. But he also has plenty of competition behind him. So that's another thing he's got to kind of worry about with Chris Abrams' drain, playing so well in the preseason and getting a really high PFF score, even though it was against lower string guys. But I don't know. I wish they would have did a little more research on Riley Moss, whatever. But I hear great things. You trade up for the guy, so they definitely think very highly of him. So, and he's got good closing speed when he does get beat too. But I did see that catch. So he was like a couple inches, like he got tricked a little bit, and it was just enough room to get like a foot, and then they just overthrew that ball.
Yep, just a step behind. And before we move on to matchups, let's get to another player for you, Kenneth. Who's one more player you think the fans should be focused on tomorrow?
Who takes Tim Patrick's spot? Is it Mims? Is it Vele? It should be Mims, but Vele's the same body type. Patrick was working out in the slot, which either one of those guys can play. But yeah, I want to see who's going to snatch that opportunity and run with it and not let go of it. Or if they're going to do it like a duo, switching in and out and stuff like that. But yeah,
committee kind of role.
I want to see who takes that receiver spot.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We heard once the Jerry Jeudy trade was facilitated, you hear that Mims, straight from Sean Payton, you heard him say, hey, Mims was kind of drafted to play that role, and he just wasn't getting touches because he was a rookie. He made a few mistakes, a couple fumbles here and there, but mainly because Jerry Jeudy was already in his role. Now that he's gone, he's going to get more touches, and everyone's expecting him to be the number 2, but you get into preseason and beyond, a quick touchdown pass from Bo Nix, largely we haven't seen it. And even through training camp, not just the preseason games, we haven't heard much from him, and that's a little scary. I know I hate the idea of the Broncos trading up for a wide receiver just to be a kick or punt returner. That doesn't really sit well with me when you have other guys on the board there.
I got roasted on online about that, about my last article about him, and I'm like, yeah, it's really hard if you're not going to do the receiving side, even if you're really good, you got to be the top 3 or 4 returner in the league to just be a returner, and that's it.
And then you got other guys there, like you mentioned, Vele, same body type, sure hands like Tim Patrick. He was wearing the 81, not now. And obviously from Utah, so there's a lot of connections there. But most importantly, his play style. I'm excited to see what he can do this year. Obviously, okay. Well, hold on.
We got Elena in here talking trash. Go Hawks.
Yeah, they're just gonna keep spamming that. Goodbye. Have a good night.
You went too far.
Yeah, right. And then obviously you have Josh Reynolds there, who I think might comfortably be the 2, just on the virtue of he was paid as a free agent, and obviously he had a missed touchdown catch in preseason game, but he's largely very solid, and I'm happy to have him here.
Yeah, it's I don't know. We'll see how this all goes and everything, but I don't know who's gonna be I wonder who's gonna be the sneaky guy that nobody thinks about that shows up like the McMillan did on defense last year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Chrysler Abrams Drain is that one over there. He's the next McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it's not the guys we're talking about, a receiver. I feel like Josh Reynolds is like the forgotten receiver, the forgotten Bronco. I always forget he's on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want to see one of those guys, one of those under guys. Maybe I don't see Troy Franklin, but hey, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Let's get back to the chat for a second. Phil, I do see your comment, but we are going to save stats for just a little later. We have Chase Wilner coming in. He said, we will see how things shake out with Reynolds, but he was clutch in Detroit and with the Rams. That he was, Chase, and welcome to the chat. Good to see you, my friend. Always good chopping it up with you. And we also have Quentin Caldwell. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Quentin. Good to see you as well, my friend.
I like that picture.
Yeah. All right. So my guest actually is going to bring us into our next topic here. He asked, what is the top matchup you're watching for? And we actually have a handful here. And I'll start probably the biggest one outside of, anything quarterback related. That's going to be PS2 versus DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. Now, last time the Broncos faced the Seahawks 2 years ago, Surtain held Metcalf to, I believe it was 3 catches for 36 yards. Pretty darn good. I got as much as I want DK to do good because he's on my fantasy team. I would absolutely love it for PS2 to smother him again. Obviously, he's a big name, and PS2 sometimes I think gets forgotten outside of Broncos country because, well, we haven't been winning a lot, and that's just kind of what happens, We say, oh, this player was snubbed from the Pro Bowl or All Pro or whatever. That's because you're not winning, and people forget about you. But after tomorrow, people are going to remember PS2 and just how good he is because he had a little bit of we'll call it a down season last year, but that's largely due to the defensive line getting absolutely no pressure. So he's covering guys for extended amounts of time. 4 seconds is a lot of time to cover someone, especially in the NFL. And you see guys like Sauce Gardner, Deron Bland, those guys who made All-Pro last year. What do they have in front of them? An amazing defensive line getting pressure.
Williams.
Yeah, Quentin Williams. You got Huff. A few other guys there who are totally blanking on, but a much better defensive line than the Broncos. We'll say that much. But DK, PS2 is not going to overlook his matchup. He's a smart guy. He's very technical. DK, obviously a absolute specimen at wide receiver. That dude is insane. Speed, size, catch radius, whatever you want. So that's definitely going to be a big matchup for the Broncos. What are your thoughts on that, Kenneth?
Yeah, it's kind of hard with those receivers too because it's like you can shut them down all game, but it only takes one play, one slip, one trip, one rub route, and then they go to the house. Luckily, we got a high IQ guy in PS2 who sees a lot of that stuff coming. If it happens to him once, it doesn't happen to him twice. But DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf, and he's giant, he's strong, he's fast. I always say hard work trumps talent, but sometimes it's the other way around. It's something you just can't overcome. It's like playing your older brother in football, and you're 10 and he's 20. But PS2 is that he's got that secret ingredient for all these big receivers. So I think he'll be up to the task.
Definitely. So what is a matchup that you are looking forward to, Kenneth?
Denver's linebackers against the tight ends from Seattle.
Noah Fant.
That would be the worst. Man, I liked Noah Fant. It's just like, he just didn't get involved too much, whatever. And they used to throw the short passes where he had to come to a dead stop and then turn around and turn up the field, but he'd always get hit. But yeah, I want to see if Cody Barton, Singleton, hopefully Stranad, because he played really well in preseason, and he actually has the tools to cover people like that. He lacks a little bit in the run defense, but if you start to get torched by me, I would say switch him out, put him in there. But yeah, I want to see if we've solved our problem, which I don't think we have. But I want to see if we can contain it to where it's not a game-changing situation. It's just a here and there, kind of like when Champ Bailey used to give up 7-yard catches here and there, but he never gave up that first down, or he never gave up that touchdown. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And as far as the defense goes, the linebackers, the middle linebackers in particular, probably the worst room we have there on the Broncos, which is unfortunate. I Josie Jewell wasn't a world beater or anything, but he was a good leader and he knew his assignment and did what he was asked. Now you have Alex Singleton, who's rough in coverage to say the least, but solid tackler in the run game. So he'll be wearing that green dot this year, and hopefully he can step up. And as you mentioned, Cody Barton, he's better at pass coverage than Singleton, but I don't know how much. It's a really rough room, and I have a lot of reservations about the linebackers. Let's move into my next matchup here, and I think someone had it here. Chase comes hopping in. Riley Moss versus JSN or Lockett. How about Jaquan McMillan versus JSN? That's my next matchup. In the slot, JSN is that slot technician, very sound route runner. And with DK and Lockett typically taking the outside spots, someone's going to have to defend that middle of the field, and that's where JSN does his best work. But that's the answer to that will be Jaquan McMillan. Hopefully, he played very well last season, had a little some slip-ups here towards the end of the year, but nothing super egregious, and he's growing as a player. And I mentioned earlier Jim Leonard being the DB's coach, and I think that only means good things for Denver's secondary, which is very young and largely unproven outside of PS2. And I'd say maybe PJ Locke. I like PJ Locke. He took a big step last year. Let's see if he can go even above that this year. But I think McMillan versus JSN is going to be a very underrated and very scrappy battle there in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know. McMillan reminds me of back in the day, Chris Harris, undrafted free agent, a feisty guy, got burned a couple of times, kept grinding, turned into a premier guy that you just did not want to line up across from. And I feel like he had a year last year that shows that can make that growth. Let's see if he can do it 2 years in a row. Too many times where we see people play really well, and then for some reason it's like they completely forgot about all that. Like with Mathis, he started out kind of rough in that first game, his first year, even though a couple of those pass interferences I thought were a little bogus, but finished the season strong. And then last year it was like, is this Damari Mathis or Lamari Mathis? Like, who is like, this is like a completely different person, because it's not the same thing. So I want to see McMillan come back and do it again year 2. I'm excited, and I want to see, and he's got a pretty hefty matchup right here, so we'll see how he holds up. But I think he's feisty, strong enough, fast enough, feisty enough, smart enough to be up for the challenge.
Definitely. And why don't we get to one more of your matchups here, Kenneth? Who else do you think we should keep an eye on versus the Seahawks?
Let's see. I guess Cortland Sutton against Seattle's cornerbacks. I'm not sure if they'll be having one guy follow him like how we have PS2 a lot of times, but I want to see him get off to a fast start. I don't know, like 80 yards and a touchdown, 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 targets. But I want to see him get involved. I think he's one of the more important ones to get involved, just because I don't know. Once you get in a rhythm with Cortland Sutton, it's like he just can't be stopped. And then also when you're looking for that touchdown on the side, you got to have that timing and everything with him, because he'll reward you for it with his one hand catches with people holding the other hand behind his back. So yeah, I want to see how Cortland Sutton comes out against these DBs and see if he starts out fast.
Yeah, for sure. That Seahawks do have very talented duo there, and Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen. Obviously, Witherspoon's I think is the best corner on their team. You got Tariq Woolen, who's good as well, but a lot of speed with him. Wherever Sutton goes, he's going to have to be dominant at the catch point, which we're used to seeing. Hopefully, Bo Nix can just throw the ball up to him, and Sutton can come down with it, as we saw multiple times last season, making spectacular touchdown catches, whether it be against the Chargers, the Bills, what have you.
Looks like CU's getting this was Madden. The game would be over. They're down 21-0.
Oh, jeez.
Did you ever do that 21 rule in Madden when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah? No.
You're down 21, the game's over. It's like
right. Yeah, it's not looking too good for CU at the moment, but I'm sure they'll
just don't allow any more points. All right, I think they have the ball. Yeah, CU does. Try to get a field goal. Actually, no, there's 6 minutes. I was looking at the play clock, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Oh, they just got a big pass down to the 40-yard line of Nebraska, Travis Hunter. So, what do you think about Travis Hunter? People always, they're all old school. He can only play offense. He can only play defense. I don't understand why you can't do defense in like 10 or 15 plays on offense a game, even if you only throw it to him twice.
Yeah, I talked about this with Ron last week. I think you actually brought this up, but it depends. I think college for sure. Like you can go two ways. I mean, you're gonna put a lot of tread on your tires, but I think once you get to the NFL, you might have to pick one. Say maybe he plays corner full time, and then you give him a handful of specialty snaps on offense, which I think would be a fantastic way to use him. And who better to do that than Sean Payton? Hey guys, come on. that would be absolutely amazing for this offense, who does need another weapon.
Those other guys are playing like 10 or 15 plays in college. He's playing the entire game on both, minus like 5 or 6 plays. So he can shrink down to a 10-play window. And not all the time, but just like if it's a competitive, you're playing a KC or you're playing a Baltimore, it's nice to throw a couple extra wrinkles in there.
Yeah, man, for sure. And then let me scroll back up here and we'll grab Phil's second chat here tonight. How many sacks do we get and who gets them? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're going to move on to some player stats. So I'll start off. And since you asked about sacks, I think Baron Browning is going to get a sack and a half and let's say around 2 to 3 tackles for loss. I'm huge on Baron Browning when he's healthy. He's a difference maker. It's just you can't be consistent when you're not on the field. Unfortunately, that injury bug has clouded him for quite a while, but we saw the impact he made when he came back last year in that Packers game. I was there live to see it, and I'm sure some of you were as well. He's just a major disruptor off the edge, and that's something we need on this team. We got a bunch of number 2s, in my opinion, and if Baron Browning can stay consistent, stay healthy, he can be that number 1 guy for the Broncos. I like Jonathan Cooper. I don't like him starting extensively. I like him in a rotation. Same with Benito. Jonah Ellis does look really good. I'm very excited to see what he can do. But in terms of Baron Browning, I think a sack and a half is pretty attainable for him.
I think was it Zach Allen for a sack and 2 tackles for a loss.
Okay.
I think he's going to look to prove something this year. He ended the season pretty well last year. He started off pretty slow. But now he's got John Franklin Myers on the line with him. To see if that can rejuvenate DJ Jones into other guys playing well against him and then get him hyped up as well, because he's got it in him. I don't know what happened. Maybe that's what made him play so well in San Francisco, is because he played around so many good players. But yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love that defensive line to look good, especially like you mentioned. Zach Allen looked fantastic towards the end of the Broncos run there, the second half of the season. He's not going to be getting double teamed anymore. He's not going to be getting as much attention because opposite him, John Franklin Myers, he's a force to be reckoned with up the middle, especially in the pass game. And getting more one-on-one matchups just means more opportunities to get after the quarterback, especially. And hopefully we can get them in those third and long situations where they can just pin their ears back and get after Geno Smith, especially. The next player I have for stats, I'm going to go with Javonte Williams, and maybe this seems a little not weird necessarily, but I'm going to have Javonte going for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Javonte has not yet to have a 100-yard game, but he's only had 2 in his career, largely because when he came in as a rookie and he showed those flashes of being dominant, he had Melvin Gordon getting the bulk of those carries. Then obviously he gets injured. And then the season following, predictably slower, less explosive. He blew out his freaking knee. So coming into this game, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, running the ball is going to be a focal point probably for both teams, but especially the Broncos having limited weapons on the outside and having a rookie quarterback. You want to take that crowd noise away. You want to take some pressure off them. So I think they pound the rock with Javonte Williams, and he adds another 100-yard game to his resume.
I had something. I think me and Eric talked about this too. He had him going over 100 yards as well, and I had it a little bit different. I had him doing 70 yards, but I had him doing 2 scores. I feel like that's like his game. He doesn't get you the 100-yard things. I mean, he can, but he'll get you from his game. He should get you into the end zone. He should get you 2 or 3, I mean, 1 or 2 15-yard runs, a bunch of 4-yard runs, a couple of 6-yard, like always positive, rarely a 1 or 2 yard run. But he needs to hit the right hole to not only get those 1 or 2 yard runs, so he can break some arm tackles instead of running people over. But I'm excited to see if he can really make the Seattle offensive line pay and just start running fools over into the end zone.
Definitely. I'm right there with you, man. Is there another stat line from a player you want to throw out there, a prediction perhaps?
I'll do Mims for a touchdown.
Oh, okay.
And it'll be similar to his preseason touchdown. Kind of a shorter pass, not like an 80-yard touchdown. Which, if I was him, I would play those Redskin highlights, Washington Commander highlights over and over in the locker room. Like, oh, who put this on?
Yeah, right.
Ran for 70-yard touchdown. Oh, wow, weird.
Yeah,
and like hide the remote or something like that. Like, give me the ball, man.
You have any predictions for maybe how many yards he can get?
We'll do like 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I like it. You know, with when we talked about Belichick earlier, we talked about the quick game, screens, dump off passes. That's somewhere Mims could possibly excel. Take advantage of that speed, dump it off to him quick, get some blockers out in front and off to the races. And like you mentioned, that Commanders game, he went ballistic. He just ran all over the defense. That speed was on display. And that's what you drafted him for. And obviously it wasn't consistent throughout the year, but you saw the flashes there. And hopefully he can get a score in this game to raise his stock up here a little more.
Actually, the first time I ever saw him was in college. His quarterback was Caleb Williams in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. There was
he threw him an awesome touchdown. It was a deep touchdown. It was well contested. Mims brought it down, but yeah, Caleb Williams was his quarterback.
Very nice. We are getting up to the 50-minute mark to the podcast. So we got a couple more things we need to look into before we go. as for the injury report, yeah, that looks blank, and that's great for this team. Obviously, last year was an improvement on injuries, but the prior years to that just dreadful. I mean, we expected half the team to be out of the game week to week, so it's good to see that there's no injuries there. Looks like Phil's coming in with
Oh,
another
thanks,
comment.
Phil.
I think we have to take advantage on special teams. Also, think Singleton may have a great game. He better, because Kenneth Walker's going to be toting that rock, and we need someone to hammer down on him and make him think twice about going up the middle. What do you think there,
Yeah,
Kenneth?
maybe Josie Jewell gave him that cheat code to running over those big backs like he ran over Derrick Henry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if a Singleton has a big game, it's all based off of effort and energy. You're never gonna have come up short on that with Alex Singleton. He's an all or nothing guy. Sometimes it really burns him because of that, but everybody likes a guy that puts it all out in the field, even if they do make mistakes here and there, because they tend to make up for him because of their effort, 100% effort, 100% of the time. So,
yeah, definitely. And then as for special teams, it can be an advantage. I'm interested to see who they have returning. Obviously, they were trying some guys out in preseason. Doesn't mean they're going to be the starter. I think Mims, he might see less time back there just due to increasing his role in offense if he can take those snaps and he can step up, diversify his route tree. You can't just be a 9-route guy. You can't just be going deep all the time. You got to get some quick stuff out there and just get more routes under your belt.
yeah, I heard they're not going to use him on kickoff as much, more on punts. But I don't know.
I got you. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing to see the past 2 games. A lot of kickoffs out of the end zone still. I was hoping the new rules would facilitate some more returns. Hasn't been the case yet. Teams just seem to be comfortable with the other guys starting on the 30.
It makes zero sense because I feel like in preseason, everyone that they did make it in the field, this guys got tackled at the 17-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
You rarely. I mean, I feel like we were the only ones that broke one for a decent game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, it's maybe some teams are holding some things out, early in the season. We'll see if they get creative later on. And hopefully Sean Payton and Mike Westhoff have something up their sleeve. Now, before we get out of here, obviously, we got to give some score predictions here, Kenneth. What do you see the outcome being tomorrow?
I think it'll be a close game. I think we'll have some hiccups here and there, but I think we'll find a way to win. I think our defense will find a way to get off the field at the end of the game on third down, which they've had issues with in the past when they play really well the entire game and then they need that stop. They for some reason can't get off the field. I think they do. I think Bo Nix thanks them for it. I think he drives down the field and we hit a field goal. Let's hit a field goal to go up 24-23 in a tight win.
Love that. Make up for last time we were in this stadium.
Mm-hmm.
As for me, I had the final score being 24-20 Denver. There's a lot of time I mulled this over because rookie quarterback, you factor in the crowd noise. Do we have enough weapons on the outside to get it done, to score on offense? And then obviously the defense, you still got Vance Joseph there. Not a huge fan of him. Got some questions in the secondary and in the middle with the linebackers. Very young secondary. We have to see how Riley Moss does. PJ Locke was solid. Can he replicate that? We don't know how Brandon Jones or the rest of that room is going to look. Very, very young beyond Brandon Jones. But ultimately, I'm going with the homer pick. It's week 1. I'm excited. I'm just happy to see Broncos football, and I want us to get off on the right foot. And I'm just going to manifest that and say Broncos are going to win 24-20 on the back of Bo Nix and Javonte Williams.
Well, when you're not at the game, where do you watch the games, or do you go to the house by yourself, friends? You go to a bar? What does everybody in the room do? I guess too.
Yeah, I typically last season I was live tweeting the game, so I was at home, and I had Fubo TV, which was nice. Being here. Uh, it's nice being at home, but I was kind of by myself in my room like a gremlin, watching the game and making sure I get the tweet out quick enough. And
Yeah,
sometimes there's a little latency. I'm here in California, games all the way in Colorado, which only a few states over, but still a little bit of
yeah,
latency. But yeah, we'll mostly I like to be at home with my parents. My parents are Niners fans, but they love me. Being a Broncos fan, they support me fully unless we play each other.
yeah. And they dove. I'm old enough to know when we played each other in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, yeah, back with Montana.
They turned the whole Pueblo Mall into like a Super Bowl party, and they had cars that you could smash up, and then we lost like 55-10.
Maybe should have saved the smashing for the end, huh?
Well, they had this joke. It was before this Broncos finally started winning Super Bowls. It was what do Broncos and weed have in common? And it was they both get smoked in the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was. It was like we would lose by like 40 points. It's like how do you lose by that much? That's crazy. You get all the way that far only to lose by 40.
That's what happens when your quarterback wills them to the Super Bowl and doesn't have necessarily the best surrounding cast around him. And
yeah, they are pretty overrated, like the Three Amigos and so. I love them, fan favorites.
Oh yeah,
but they got like 700 yards receiving in those
seasons. Yeah, that's once you get there, you realize it takes a team. You can't just put it all on one guy. That's it for tonight, folks. Let me just get to a few comments here, actually, that I see. We have Karen Haynes coming in. Thank you, Karen. Very much appreciate it. Good evening, all. Tomorrow's going to be a fun day. Broncos game followed by a stadium tour at Coors Field. I can't wait to see how this team starts and their progress throughout the season. That sounds amazing. I wish I kind of want a tour of Coors Field, driving by to go to the stadium the last few years when we do the meet and greet. And actually, now that I brought that up, I better see a bunch of you guys at the meet and greet next week against the Steelers, who may or may not be starting Russell with the strained calf. Hopefully we get to put the hurt on him next week. But I hope to see a lot of you there. I'll be there in person, I believe. Are you going to be there as well, Kenna?
I will be there. Yeah, we used to make that joke, whatever, about Russell Wilson and his 8 bathrooms. The 8 bathrooms, and he still found a way to crap the bed in Denver. Like,
definitely.
So many bathrooms. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, enjoy your time while you're here, Karen. That's awesome. We actually do have really good stadiums for everybody compared to other places. They're relatively new. We got McGregor Square across from Coors Field. If you like barbecue, there's a place called Yazoo's, real cheap, but it's delicious. That's awesome. So yeah, if you need any recommendations on anything, just hit me up on Twitter. What's the other one? There's a breakfast place, Denver Biscuit Company is another good one too. That was on Diner, Drive-Ins and Dives or something like that.
Oh, you know what? I went there the last time I for the meet and greet last year, before I left for my flight, me and my dad. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely recommend that. Alrighty, folks, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, okay.
Orange and Blue View
works in. Karen's from here. She lives in Aurora. Works in.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight, folks. This has been Orange and Blue View. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for filling in for Ron for a night.
Oh, no problem. I had a great time.
Yeah, me as well, my friend. And before we get out of here, just want to do a few orders of business here. Just as the ticker says here below, subscribe, like, and share. It's the quickest thing you do, the easiest thing you can do, and it helps out this channel a lot. As I put in the chat, from time to time when I'm moderating, a little bit goes a long way. It truly does. If you want to continue the conversation, you can hit us up on X, formerly known as Twitter. I am Dylan Von Arx, MHH, and Kenneth is at Kenneth_MHH. Make sure to hit us up there for any questions that you didn't get answered tonight or what have you. And we do hope to see many of you at the meet and greet. You can You get to come talk to us, tell us how great we are, tell us how much you hate us, whatever it may be. we're there to talk and have a good time. One more thing I do want to hit before we get out of here. Our super chat superstar for the night, Phil McLaughlin. Thank you so much, Phil. Always good to have you in the chat. Always bringing forward thought-provoking questions. And we love you, man. Always good to see you here in the chat. Kenneth, before we get out of here, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Everybody send your prayers to CU, I guess. I don't know. It's still 21-0. They almost scored and they just got sacked.
Oh, jeez.
Rodney Garcia enjoyed some WWE. That sounds like a fun time.
It does sound like I'm a big wrestling fan, so.
Yeah, my brother is too. Had the NWO shirts and everything back in the day, but
love that.
Everybody have a good time this weekend. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy your family. If you want to do something fun and exciting, just do it. Life's too short. And don't get too crazy before the Broncos game. We need you there, cheering on our Broncos. And look forward to meeting you guys. It's going to be really fun. So, yeah, I'll see you then. I'll see you for Pittsburgh and see us sacking Russell Wilson 5 or 6 times.
Yep, that's exactly right. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your night, and go Broncos.